Welcome to the Anti Optimist Therapist Podcast, where optimism and realism coexist. I'm your host, April, therapist, and someone who believes the truth lies somewhere between just think positive and everything is terrible. Today's episode is called You Are Not Your Thoughts. Let's begin. You've probably had this experience. You make a small mistake and your brain says, you're a failure. Not just oops, or not just, that didn't go exactly how I wanted. But I am something wrong. That shift happens fast, so fast you don't see it, you just feel it. And then you start obeying it. This is where we meet the idea of cognitive fusion. It's a psychological process where we become entangled with our thoughts. We stop seeing them as thoughts and start seeing them as truth. They don't just pass through, they instruct. They say, hurry, apologize, quit. You're falling behind. You're not enough. You'll regret this. And most of the time, we listen. Not necessarily because we want to, but because they sound urgent. They sound like us. Let me tell you a story. When Viktor Frankl entered Auschwitz, he brought with him a small manuscript. It was hidden in the lining of his coat, a draft of a book, his life's work at that point. It explored the beginnings of his theory of logotherapy, the idea that meaning is a cornerstone of human endurance and well-being. And when he arrived, the manuscript was seized, destroyed. Frankl was stripped of his coat, his identity, his profession, everything tangible that had once grounded him. And then in a moment, he later called fate, he found something in the pocket of his replacement coat. A page from a Hebrew prayer book, the Shema Yisrael. That moment changed something in him. He began to understand that this season of life would not be about writing meaning. It would be about living it. Throughout his imprisonment, Frankl reconstructed the manuscript on scraps of paper, not because he thought he'd survive, not because he thought anyone would ever read it, because remembering what mattered gave structure to his suffering. He could no longer carry the manuscript, but he could carry the purpose it represented. This is the essence of what we call diffusion in act. It's not a mental trick. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's a deliberate act of separating yourself from the thoughts that try to define you so that you can remember who you are and what actually matters. Let's talk about that inner narrator. Most people carry one. It might be anxious. It might be critical. It might sound like a perfectionist, but here's the problem. It sounds just like you. So you assume it's wise. You assume it's right. But most of the time, it's just scared, unfamiliar, and persistent. Here's a metaphor I love. Imagine your mind is a radio. The machinery was installed at birth. But the stations, those were tuned by your experiences, your culture, your memories, your fears, and it plays continuously. Some stations are helpful, others not so much. One in particular tends to dominate. Radio doom and gloom. You're behind. Everyone's watching. This will never work. It's loud, it's familiar, and it's often convincing. But now imagine another station. During one of the most uncertain times in history, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt began broadcasting what became known as the fireside chats. He used the same medium that was often used to spread panic, the radio. But his voice was different, steady, measured, intentional. He didn't deny the hardship, but he also didn't feed the fear. He reminded people of what mattered. He grounded them in what could be done. Same device, different tone. The radio wasn't the problem, the tone was. And it's the same with your mind. The question isn't whether the voice will speak, it's who will be in charge when it does. Let me give you one more example. Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon, and then he came home, and quietly he unraveled. He had devoted his entire identity to the mission, and once it was over, so was his orientation. Depression followed, because fusion isn't just about painful thoughts. It's about the beloved ones. I am my career. I am the strong one. I am the success story. When we fuse with any role or narrative, we become fragile, not because we're weak, but because life changes. And when it does, we lose ourselves. You are not your moon landing. You're the one who chooses what comes next. Here's one more metaphor. Picture your mind as a backpack. You didn't choose everything inside of it. A lot of it was handed to you by culture, fear, memory, trauma, but still, it's yours. Most people think that the goal is to empty it, to resolve every doubt, to overcome every fear, to wait until things feel light before moving forward. But what if the goal isn't to empty the backpack? What if the goal is to carry it skillfully, mindfully, without letting it dictate your direction? You don't need to drop the backpack. You just need to decide where to walk. Let's try something. Take a thought that visits you often, especially one that you know holds you back. Name it plainly, then say, I'm having the thought that blank, blank, blank. Then try, I'm noticing I'm having the thought that blank, blank, blank. Same content, different stance. That space you just created, that's where freedom begins. Final thought. Your mind will keep speaking. Its job is not to be silent. Its job is to protect you, to prepare you, to position you for survival. But its strategies are often outdated, and its authority is not absolute. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them and the one who chooses what comes next. Thanks for listening to the Anti Optimist Therapist Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, feel free to stick around. I'll be here every week, blending clinical insights, lived experience, and a little bit of existential honesty. Because life is hard, but it's not hopeless. You don't have to fake a smile to build something meaningful. If you're in Utah, you can visit me on my website, theantioptimisttherapist.com, for a free 15-minute consultation.